It was an old dingy motel. We had to gut a bedroom and turn around a full bedroom renovation in 24 hours. We started at 2 p.m. and worked through the night and finished at 4 p.m. the next day. But I'd started at 7 a.m. on my own job. So I did 38 hours wearing a nail bag, no sleep, on national TV as a 23-year-old.
What is success to you?
I think it was a learn to love it experience.
And there's always pitfalls that you can fall in, but then you've got no one else to blame but yourself.
Number one thing if you're struggling is to catch up with people about it.
Guys, before we start this episode, let me just quickly jump in here just to thank our content partners, Abodo, for supporting Better Builder. We love what these guys stand for, especially around their sustainability and biodiversity. Abodo is actually thinking way beyond just sustainability, and we know that that is important to more and more clients that builders work with. And all from a family-owned company as well. So thanks, Abodo. We love what you guys do. Now let's kick into this episode. Matty Menichelli, thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it.
We were just saying that you do not look very Italian.
Yeah.
You look more Irish or something.
My old man, my father, he was born in Italy and then came across. So, yeah, I guess I take after my mum.
Yeah. So, so your dad moved over here? Your granddad?
Correct. Yeah. So he came over when he was young, when he was 8 years old. So, yeah.
Right.
Back in the 60s. Yeah.
Cool. So you're like, what, second generation? You got it first or second generation? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
so, yeah, thanks for coming on. We've been Instagramming each other, DMing each other. I was supposed to come a while ago, a few months ago, but we didn't quite get it at the time, but finally we're here.
Yeah, stars have aligned, so it's exciting.
For sure, man. I think you were like maybe one of the first two builders I had written down to kind of catch up with. So
beautiful.
I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate that. That's good.
So tell me a little bit, I want to kind of rewind a little bit, go back a little bit and hear a bit about your upbringing. Obviously, you're Italian. Where did you grow up here in Melbourne or big family? What was your upbringing like?
Yeah, so family of five. Yeah, grew up out in the suburbs, northeast. I suppose in a roundabout way, the Green Wedge, sort of 18 k's out of the city, so not too far. And just a stock standard upbringing, really. Fair interest in sport and school and all the rest of it. Family and parents, no one was a tradesman or that way inclined.
They make pasta or something like that?
Yeah, true, salami. So I mean, obviously going through school and all that process and everything like that, I was always sort of tinkering around and making things at home and playing around, and I knew I was always a bit of I was a good problem solver, sort of just trying to work things out, whether it was Lego or Meccano or whatever it was, just tinkering around and just making stuff and making slingshots and all those sort of things. So, and that just sort of evolved as I got a fair bit older, and I was going through school, and I actually sort of I was more inclined, I was looking going down the road of architecture and building design. So I was doing the folio subjects through VCE and through high school, and actually spent 6 months the first semester of uni at Swinburne doing industrial design.
Right.
Because I thought that was the path that I wanted to go down. Had an interest in property, had an interest in design, problem solving, all those sort of things. And spent 6 months doing that at Swinburne, and it just didn't stick. I probably could have sucked it up and finished the course, and it was just it was missing something. I sort of thought, the theory side of things was I thought it wasn't ticking all the boxes from my perspective. So
right, was it too much like because if you're like a problem solver, maybe you were a bit more like like a engineering approach, or was it just too much fluff and theory and stuff?
A lot of fluff, and I mean, like you've got the design principles and things like that, and at the end of the day, like designs, it can be subjective. So it's like. You've got the design intent and things like that, and it's like, well, how is it? It's right or wrong, or it's just so. From my perspective, there was a fair bit of fluff, and there was just a few missing links that, it wasn't really. I could have completed the course, but I couldn't see it as a full blown career. So I started reevaluating a little bit in that mid semester break, and And I had some mates from school who took the trade route, and they'd sort of outline what the day-to-day life was like, and you're sort of out in the environment, whether it's sun, wind or rain, whatever it is, but you sort of, I was always physical and sporty and all that sort of thing, so sitting in a room in an office wasn't really gelling. So the idea of, getting out in the environment and in the sun and things like that was pretty appealing, and then also just doing stuff with your hands. So I sort of had a look around, reevaluating those holidays, and just started labouring for a builder, and it was nothing glamorous, to be honest. It was just pulling up concrete and things like that, but I loved it. Like you could actually see reward or the progress at the end of a hard day's work. And that was sort of fulfillment that I hadn't really gotten through any other jobs or any other sort of works that I've been doing. Like I'd always worked from a young age. Like 14, I was working at a video shop, DVDs, Video Easy back in the day. Not around anymore. That and Blockbuster are going down the gurgler.
Great career paths there.
Yeah, true. That wasn't sustainable, was it? Like working at Video Easy, and then brother had a bottle shop. I was working there. I was a bartender at one point, and it was just all no issues with working, but there was no real sort of, at the end of the day, you can actually see what you've produced sort of thing. So, this labouring gig, it was just like a sort of a flick of a switch, and I'm like, I like this. Like it's, you're huffing and puffing, you're putting a bit of sweat into it, but you're actually, that's the fulfillment. And then me sort of being a little bit calculated and sort of forward planning, I'm like, well, okay, I've got an interest in property, got an interest in design in some form. I'm like, well, okay, maybe a builder. And then what's the best way to become a builder? Carpentry is probably the most well-rounded trade to sort of learn the skill set to then become a builder. And that was pretty much that. That was the commitment to go, okay, this is sort of the direction that I want to take. That's where I want to be. This is sort of the path and the steps I've got to take to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're younger, when you're a young guy in your early 20s or whatever, it's real fun, to do that physical, like on building site. Like it's really cool because it's like Lego, but it's like massive, you know. So it's definitely in our nature, to kind of be really interested in that. I remember when I'm not a builder. I didn't grow up as a builder, but I didn't have any builders in the family necessarily, but it's just, I was way more interested in that than go working at McDonald's when I was like, even when I was like 19 or something. I'd rather go labouring or, do something physical, do gardening or landscaping than go work at Macca's or go work at Woolies or something, you know what I mean?
And that's the thing. I mean, I know everyone's different, but it's just like, I just found it so much more stimulating, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd spent, obviously, primary school, high school, cooped up in a classroom, and then you get out, you're 18, you finish school, and you're like, okay, well, I need to build a career. What am I doing? And then to see that as a viable option, you're getting out and about. It's early mornings, but like by 7:30, you've unpacked the ute, you're carrying these tools, like you're up and about. It's good for the mind, it's good for the body.
Yeah, it's good for discipline.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, rain, hail or shine, the job's still got to get done. If it's a little bit too hot, you still got to do it. If it's cold and wet, you still got to get it done. So it's just like, it's never perfect conditions. Just suck it up and get it done, because at the end of the day, it's not going to build itself.
I see those videos on Instagram, with those guys like the tradies, and then like one drop of rain lands, and then they're like, let's get out of here to the pub. You know what I mean? Like those sort of funny videos.
Yeah.
So what sort of sport do you play, Matty?
How far back do we go? So I swam a fair bit when I was younger. Years and years of martial arts, taekwondo.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was right through to probably did 8 years of that. A little bit of soccer earlier on, but as I got older, just focused on footy. So just local footy. Local club Eltham, shout out to those guys. But
shout out.
Yeah, I was down there for probably 10 years. Yeah, finished up. Hit 30 and thought, I'm done. So wrapped up about 3 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good on you. Well, good on you for playing that long. A lot of guys stop way before that.
It was more the mateship, It's like, as I said, it wasn't a high standard. It was just local footy, but it's just, that was sort of the bit of escape, Everyone sort of gets a bit older and friendship groups change and shift, and everyone's trying to build a career and doing their own thing, and you've sort of, if you got that commitment to be down the footy club and play, you're training 2 nights a week, you're there on a Saturday, it's that sort of anchor. So,
Yeah, 100%. Good community as well.
Yeah.
So tell me, you then decide that you're going to start like an apprenticeship, is that right? Or how did you start then?
Yeah. So that was, when I was umming and ahhing about what to do and bailing out of industrial design, it was, I sort of made the decision, I'll pursue the path of becoming a builder. So,
And you used the same company you were labouring for, or another company?
nah, that was just a little bit of an in. I had a family friend who ran the business, and they just offered me, it was around about 6 weeks' work through that mid-semester break. So took advantage of that, and that was a little bit of a taster in terms of just the day-to-day environment of what a tradesman would be seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who did you go work for? How did you start your apprenticeship?
Yeah, so back, we don't do it anymore, but I actually opened up the local paper and people were having job listings. So this was about, what was this, 15 years ago? Yeah. And I found a local builder that was in the next suburb over. And again, the way my mind works, it's like, well, if I'm going to commit to being a builder and I'm going to get there by being a carpenter, I want quite a diverse range of or experience for whoever I'm working with. I don't want to be pigeonholed just being a framer, because you're not going to see the beginning, you're not going to see the end of the project. So I opened up the local paper, found a local builder that specialised in renovations and a bit of insurance work as well. So I just sort of thought, reverse engineered it in my mind and thought, fuck, beautiful. It's quite diverse. He's obviously doing insurance work, so peeling bits and pieces apart and putting it back together, marrying in with existing that you can't touch, different rooms, bathroom renos, all that sort of stuff. But then he's doing full house renos. So it's literally earthworks right through to handover.
Perfect, yeah.
So I looked at that and I'm like, wow, if I want to be a builder, obviously it makes sense for me to earn my stripes and do my time under another builder. And being local, the next suburb over, it sort of ticked the boxes. So that was that. Applied for the job, had an interview, landed the job, and then spent 4 years with him as an apprentice. And the experience that I gained through him, he very much threw me in the deep end. Probably a little bit more than what I was comfortable with at the time. But fast forward now, I think it's, I was count my blessings, because gave me the opportunity that probably, I think he trusted me more than I trusted myself, I guess. So was with him for 4 years, and then as soon as I was signed off, started the business straight off the bat, and
Right. So you didn't add, there was no, you sort of, as soon as you got qualified, you're like, here we go. The goal was always to start your own business from the get?
It was always the goal. Yeah, I'm pretty driven, pretty motivated, always thinking sort of 3 to 5 years ahead. So even through my apprenticeship, so apprenticeship is your certificate 3. Again, I was looking at, okay, I want to be a builder. What do I need to do to get there while I'm doing my apprenticeship? And it was obviously your Cert 4 and your schooling to get your builder's license. So I thought, okay, I've got a bit on. By the time I finish I've got a bit of spare time at the moment being an apprentice. If I get signed off, if I start my business, I'm going to be a lot busier. So I need to do schooling at some point. Let's just bite the bullet. So I was doing night school when I was an apprentice.
Wow.
For the sufficient schooling to get your ticket, builder's license. So I actually completed the Cert 4 before I completed my Cert 3 through night school and putting in the extra hours and things like that. So, and then my employer at the time, the boss who I was doing my apprenticeship with, actually signed me off 6 months early. So, and during that time, doing my Cert 4 and everything, I had already started the company, registered the company name, proprietary limited, everything like that, had that all set up, ready to go. So when I did get signed off, I could basically float around and subcontract to whoever, whether it be my current employer, whether it be clients, and just float around. I was pretty much ready to go straight away. Yeah.
Man, that's pretty impressive. So you kind of planned everything out quite a bit.
Yeah.
And you seem to be quite driven and sort of, just thinking ahead of registering your company name and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have anyone that you sort of looked up to that you were like, yeah, I'm aiming for that? Or any of your friends were a bit ahead of you? Or how did you even think to kind of?
I don't know. It's strange. Like obviously doing the certificate 4, there was the lecturers and the guys running the courses. They had done it. So they gave their industry experience and all that sort of thing. And there are other guys who were already business owners that were looking to get their builder's license. So I was sort of the rookie amongst everyone in the classroom. So I was younger and everyone was sort of a few steps ahead. So I could sort of, there was no real serious mentors, but I sort of just looked around and just observed what other people were doing and try and sort of audit and go, okay, why is he doing it that way? It obviously works for him. And then picking up another bloke, how he's doing it. And like you sort of put together the sort of common denominators and work out, okay, well, this is obviously, it's working for multiple people. That's sort of what I've got to start.
Yeah. So what was that like when you then, so you quit your job and then you start your own company.
Yep.
What was, if you can kind of take yourself back now and 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And you put yourself in that sort of frame of mind again, like how difficult was that? What were some of the biggest challenges at that point of actually doing that?
Oh, it was just the element of the unknown. Like you've gone from straight out of school, a little bit of time at uni, but then straight into an apprenticeship, and you're essentially always getting spoon fed. Like it's, you've got a safety net. No doubt you're working hard, but the minute you're a business owner, you're now qualified. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it for, you're still expected. You're qualified. You should be able to execute to a high standard and problem solve and deliver the project. You're a business owner. You should be able to, you know what I mean? It's like the safety net's gone. So it doesn't matter, the time spent or how much experience you've had. There's a lot of learnings through those early stages. So I'd sort of always back myself in because, as I said, I'm confident in my problem-solving ability, but at the same time, it's pretty overwhelming. It's pretty daunting. And I guess I've sort of I like to say I've got a sort of healthy obsession with progression. So it's always like, okay, well, what's the next step? Okay, next step, tick that off. And then that gives you a little bit of confidence to then go again. Yeah. And then that's your new baseline, essentially. And then you can go again and go again. And, you sort of keep having a focus on taking that next step and keep progressing. And then, you just sort of, you look back after a period of time, you're like, I was there, now I'm here. And it's just like, okay, let's just keep going. And it's the snowball effect. It's just compounding.
Right. So you've always had that attitude of like, it's just about getting better, a bit better, keep going, keep progressing forward. That's cool. Okay. So people are always interested, or builders are always interested to hear a little bit about, the guest that comes on their business. So let's talk a bit about Elevate. Or Elevate Building Group.
Elevate Building Group. Yeah. We've, over the years, the group has somewhat been dropped off. So it's just Elevate Building, or even Elevate if, for
friends,
just
friends
easy.
and family.
Yeah.
Can call you Elevate. So how big is your team? That's generally the first question, right? The barbecue, 2 builders, how many guys you've got, you know?
It's funny. It's sort of always a bit of bragging rights, how many guys you got, but doesn't always, there's no direct correlation to profitability if you got more blokes.
It's just sort of like a very elementary way of looking at it, right? I know. It's sort of like, you have 10 guys, you can make margin on all those 10, multiply it out. Man, this is how much money I'm going to make.
No one talks about the losses. Don't worry about
that. We'll get to the losses soon. Okay, so how big is your team? Talk to me about the, qualified versus unqualified. You have office staff, paint a picture for me on that, Matty.
So at the moment, it's a team of 10. So we've finally struck a really good balance. The past 10 years, we've been massaging and juggling and scaling up, scaling down, depending on workload, depending on where I was going, what we had on, and all that sort of thing. So team of 10 at the moment. I've got an offsider in the office with me, a junior contracts admin. That's essentially Dennis's title, but he's doing a little bit of everything. It's almost like he's a young pup straight out of uni, so it's almost like I've got an apprentice in the office. So that's a really good dynamic there.
So are you kind of grooming him up to do more senior,
correct, like
administrative tasks?
Yeah, he's doing a little bit of everything because I knew I needed help in the office. I've only just put him on the past 12 months. So for 9 years, I was doing it all myself, sole director. So I was full on. Yeah.
Okay.
So probably a little bit too much of a control freak, but I felt like I had to do a bit of everything to then be able to engage someone and delegate to them. If I didn't know how to do something, how am I meant to make sure it's done right? So
Yeah.
that was sort of my perspective. So his title's contracts admin and estimating, but it's just a little bit of everything really. And I'm sitting side by side with him in the office for 40, 50 hours a week, and it's good. It's paying dividends, and it's allowed us to scale over the past sort of 12, and looking forward to the next 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's good.
And then how many guys have you got on site? Is that like 8 guys left, 8 guys on
Yeah,
site?
correct. Yeah. So we've got 4 apprentices. A first year, mature age first year, a second year who's a bit younger, and then 2 fourth years. So
Cool.
one of the fourth years a mature age, and then the other fourth years younger. So good balance there. And then we've got 3 leading hand carpenters who essentially I just sit and position on their job, start to finish, from set out, excavations, right through to handover, on-site day-to-day, spot fires, operations, all that sort of stuff, buck stops with them. And then we sit in the office and try and feed them and make it as streamlined as possible.
Yeah.
So it's a
And-
really good spread.
Right. Okay. So that's good. So how many projects would you then have going on at any point in time?
The sweet spot for us is 4 to 6. There was a bit of an overlap, obviously projects nearing handover. Some clients are really keen to get started, so there's always a bit of overlap. Like midway through this year, we were a little bit bogged down. That unavoidable overlap. Some jobs had a few delays, so we had 9 on the go at one point, and that was pushing the needle a little bit too far.
Yeah. So then you have subbies that come in and
So we've
labourers.
got correct. We've got a really good network of sort of preferred carpentry crews and things like that come in and lighten the load. And even I've toyed with the idea of sort of trying to mimic the same model that I've got with my employees, leading hand carpenter, and then try and mimic that with a subcontracting crew. So basically the head honcho of that subby crew would then be the point of contact for that project, and then his boys under him fulfill the carpentry scope. So toying with that model, it's hard. You sort of don't know what works best until the dust settles. So you sort of got to grit your teeth and bear it and have a crack, and then get to the end, deliver the project, be happy with what you've delivered, and then go back and audit and cost engineer and see where the wins, where the losses were, what can be sharpened up.
Yeah. 100%. Do you guys have a bunch of? Does you guys get utes and things like that? Like they have a bunch of vehicles running around, or how does that work?
Only one of my guys. I have an open conversation. I try and run pretty lean, to be honest. Like I'm not interested in machines and a big massive warehouse and all that sort of stuff, or factory and big glamorous offices. I do have a small office, and we share a factory space with 2 other businesses. So we're on top of each other, and we get a bit frustrated sometimes, but it's economical, and it's from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. In terms of running costs and cars on the road and things like that, I leave it very much open to the guys. It's like, well, realistically, you're buying a brand new Ranger, and you got rego, you got insurance, you got maintenance, you got all the rest of it. Like that ends up costing the business upwards of 20K per year. So then when you look at the salary package of that employer, you go, well, yeah, I can give you a car, but you're foregoing 20K out of what I could put together as a salary package. So you tell me what you want to do. So one guy's taken it just because he was in a transition phase, and I upgraded my car, so then the old one got passed back down to him. And it just worked because he was due for a new one. But I'm more than happy to give my employees the choice in terms of how they want to structure their salary, because everyone's got their own motivations. Everyone's trying to sort of work towards different goals. So if I just turn around and go, you're on 80K or 100K a year plus a car plus a fuel card, that's what you get. You're not really giving them the sort of
the flexibility.
So they just get sort of pigeonholed.
Yeah.
And it's not really, from my perspective, that's not how you retain staff. You sort of need to give them the opportunity to sort of pick and choose and give them the environment where they can sort of have a little bit of freedom.
Yeah. You were saying before that 9 years you were doing it a lot, all the administration tasks and everything, project management, all that yourself, costing up projects, pricing up projects. Do you recommend, or if you had to go back in time, would you have done that earlier And what has been the benefit of passing on that work? What impact has that had on your business?
It's tough. I think every business and every individual is different. Like what do? Do you win the work and then put the staff on to facilitate delivering that work? Or do you put the staff on and build the team and then chase the work to match the team? It's like, is it the horse before the cart type argument? So it's like, I was young, eager. I had a partner, but at the time, no kids. So I could work my ass off in terms of hours spent and do a bit of everything. And that was the decision that I made, because I think if I was physically doing it myself, I could learn what did and didn't work. If I was doing the estimates and I was undercooking the quote and I was losing money, it's on me. Whereas if we were making the same mistake and it was an employee or a contractor or an external estimator that undercooked the quote and I was trusting them that it was right and we were losing money, I probably would have thrown in the towel, because I'm like, oh, this is not working, because it's like I'm trying to put people in a role, but it's like, really, I'm the business owner. The onus is on me. So the way I looked at it is, if I'm going to roll the dice in certain areas, and quoting and estimating, it's probably the most important thing. Like that's what dictates what's left in your bank account at the end of the year and at the end of the project. So you got to get that right. So the way I was looking at it, for me to get that right, I had to do it and take the learnings over a prolonged period of time, over a diverse scope of works, over a broad range of projects, to then be able to pick and choose where we would specialise and how we would go about pricing.
Yeah. No, I think that's super important, right? Yeah. So I think it's good to kind of like, because there's always that conversation of like, should you be delegating? Should you be passing it on so you can work more on the business? Obviously, I think that sort of the pricing is sort of the thing you'd let go last, because it's so important, right?
Yep.
I was always just interested in terms of the other aspects of the business, how much, passing responsibilities on sort of can free you up to work on the business. So it's a fine line, and you got to sort of dance with it. Each person's got to find the right
100%. And there is no right or wrong answer. There's no there's no playbook and go, okay, this is when you start outsourcing your accounts or payroll or everything like that. Like my partner, my wife, Courtney, she's now doing payroll and all outgoings and all that sort of stuff. But it's just like, it took me so long to let go of that, because it was like, I'd be going through and I'd be checking the boys' hours and there'd be oversights or overlaps, and the boys would forget to put them in, or they'd forget they had an early knockoff or late start or something like that. If you're outsourcing that and it's not documented and your systems aren't across it, you're just hemorrhaging cash, and there's mistakes that don't get picked up on, and your head's in the clouds. You got no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
So I've built the systems and process to be able to identify those oversights and those overruns and mistakes before it gets through, and then by the time it funnels its way down to Courtney, it's already all sorted and basically everything's been identified, and then it can just be submitted and pushed out.
Yeah. So you obviously give me a bit of an idea of what type of projects you guys are working on at the moment. Like, what is it? Mostly renovation work, new builds.
Yeah.
What sort of dollar value? What do you guys play?
So obviously through my apprenticeship and everything like that, ever since I started out for 15 years, renos have been sort of the bread and butter for me. More stimulating, more challenging.
Yeah.
Probably in the market of builders, there's probably more fear and unknown and hesitation to take on a reno. So margins and things like that I find are a lot better. Anyone can build a new house, you know what I mean? It's just like you're starting from scratch. As long as you make sure you're getting it right, then there's no unknowns,
Yeah.
It's a controlled environment. With renovations, it's a can of worms, it's a head scratcher, it's a different beast. So I felt like, it was more stimulating for me, and the margins could be better. So it was a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It was more challenging.
And in Melbourne, you guys have a lot of those skinny sites, and it's a lot of problem solving and trying to, it's
as you said, logistics. It's just like
access and all this sort of stuff.
Okay, a single fronted terrace house, and you're trying to do an extension out the back with no sideway. Like, you're trying to excavate and pour a concrete slab, and you're bringing all the fill or all the spoil from the back through the hallway out the front door. It's like, that's mental. You know what I mean? You break that down, compare that with a knockdown rebuild, a brand new site where you've got 15, 20 metre frontage and you can run trucks and excavators on and off
Different.
the block. It's completely different.
Yeah, a different ball
So you
game.
take someone that does that versus someone that you pretty much have to push wheelbarrows up the hallway and out the front door to get rid of the dirt for a double-story extension out the back of a terrace house.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot
The
more
guys doing
complicated.
the new build would not even bother touching
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So how do you get your project at the moment, Matty? So you, I know you guys have a really good, solid social media
Yeah.
presence.
Yep.
You know, for what, 40, 45 or whatever, 1,000?
Roughly,
probably,
yeah.
even
Yep.
more than that, probably even now, on Instagram. And
Yeah.
so do you guys just get, you just get DM'd every week, 5 projects coming through, easy peasy? How does it actually work? Because I mean, people obviously assume you have a bit of a social media following. You just get all your work through that. Is that true,
Yeah.
or how does it work?
Oh, it carries a bit of weight. It definitely helps in terms of giving you a little bit more substance and merit behind it. But it all goes together. Like, I mean, we were fortunate in the early days back in 2015 to do a bit of work on the block, on the TV show. So that gave us good exposure early. And then from there, that was a little bit of a leg up and a little bit of a platform. And then we've just grown it from there. So to be honest, like, just because you've got the exposure, if your responsiveness and your customer service in the early days isn't there, those leads are going to go straight. They're going to come in, they're going to go straight out the window. You're going to lose them. So the follow account doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's notable, but if you can't execute, you can't respond, and by the time you win the project, if you're not delivering a high quality result, it's all fluff. You know what I mean? So you got to really stick to your guns, and everything helps. Everything stacks up and compounds, but you have to do the little things right.
Yeah.
Like that. Those things don't change. It doesn't get given to you on a silver platter.
So how did you get the block? How did that come about?
That was a cold phone call essentially. So, as I said, I started the business, started elevating 2014, 2015. I had a couple of subbies, basically on board with me full time, and an apprentice 6 months out of my time. And I bumped into a mate's older brother at the timber yard, and he had done it the year before. And we were just catching up and talking, and he goes, "Oh, I got a call from contestants." I said, "Oh, yeah?" And I said, "Are you going to do it again this year?" And he goes, "No, it was the worst thing I've ever done." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, no. I said, "Oh, have you still got their number? I'll do it." And he's like, "Fair income after everything that I told you." I said, "Yeah." I just said, "Well, that was your experience." I said, "I'm a young pup. Like, I was 23, 6 months out of my apprenticeship, and I got signed off early with a couple of guys and just trying to fluff around and find work." And I'm just like, well, what have I got to lose, you know?
Yeah.
So that was that. And then we just sort of parted ways. And then 2 days later, I was on a job for another builder. And it got to about smoko, got to sort of 10, 11. Unknown number called me, and it was one of the contestants, Kingy, and he goes, "Mate, I got your number. I heard you're keen. Do you want to jump on board with this? We're starting at 2 p.m. I'm like, fair income. I'm like, yeah. So that was that. So we packed up the tools, got the apprentice.
That same day?
That same day. So I started at 7 on my own job for a builder with my guys with me, all the tools out, having smoko, got the call. I had to be there getting mic'd up 2 hours later after the call in the city in Commercial Road. And that was day one. So, yeah, it was just like within 2 hours of getting the call, 2 days after I'd already sort of put my hand up just through a mate of a mate, I was pretty much standing there on the footpath with the camera in my face, getting mic'd up, and Scotty Cam was walking past and go, it was just a "what are you in for" sort of thing. What have you committed to? So that was that. And that first day was, it was a 24-hour challenge where it was an old dingy motel. We had to gut a bedroom and turn around a full bedroom renovation in 24 hours. So we started at 2 p.m. and worked through the night and finished at 4 p.m. the next day. But I'd started at 7 a.m. on my own job. So I did 38 hours wearing a nail bag, no sleep,
Jeepers.
on national TV as a 23-year-old. pretending to be a builder.
Yeah.
It's like
Pretending to be competent.
I got to the end of it. I'm like, I'm 6 months out of my apprenticeship and I'm on national TV. What have I done? How did I get here?
Yeah, I know. It's like the whole country might find out that you're useless. You know?
Yeah, but that was the reality. That it could have quite possibly gone that way. And I'm just like, fuck. I've been given this opportunity. What do? Do I curl up in a ball and go, oh, it's all too hard? I'm tired. I don't know what I'm doing. Or do you just grit your teeth, have a crack, and then see what comes of it, you know? So that was exactly what I did, and committed to that for the next 14 weeks, doing ridiculous hours. Like some weeks we were pulling. So that first week, I did 116 hours on the tools that first week.
Crazy.
And then after that, like when we were doing bathroom renos, like we were finishing off, like laying tiles and grouting and caulking and stuff like that. You're knocking off at 3 a.m. and you nick home to have a shower and a change of clothes and get a bit of shut eye, and you're back there at 7. Like it's just mental. So, but it's not real life. It's very much a TV show, but you're still putting in the effort. You're still delivering these rooms, and it's more about the personal growth as to what you can achieve if you actually commit to it, like genuinely put your head down and make it work. Because a lot of people who just go, no, you're dreaming. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, why can't it, you know? If you don't stop, you can get it done.
It's just crazy to me, like the hours and obviously on the show itself, you know, the contestants get all like the glory, right?
Yeah.
If the room's like, oh, look what you guys pulled together. But it's like, you know, the builders are just like the people behind them, you know, in the shadows, like making a lot of it happen, I assume.
Yeah.
What is the biggest sort of thing you've taken away from doing the block, you know?
It'd just be, as I said, it'd just be the personal growth. Like it's not the exposure, it's not the notoriety, it's not the fact that people know the business or my face or anything like that. That wasn't the key driver. It was I had an opportunity to really push myself early days where it was essentially make or break. And as I said, it's that obsession with progression. So like after the first week when we clocked up those ridiculous hours and still delivered a bathroom reno in 6 days, it's like, shit, well, I've just done this. That's the new baseline. And then from there, you take the next step. Well, okay, you get handed another problem or another ridiculous task. Well, we just did that. So why is this so overwhelming? It's not. So then that's the new baseline. Then you go again, and then it just compounds and snowballs.
Yeah, so it does give you that confidence that you can get, I guess, walking away from that. It probably gave you a heck of a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
So like that you could actually get you could actually do a lot more than you anticipate.
100%. And that's the thing. It's like, well, doing that on national TV in a high pressure, high stress environment, anything else on the outside world in terms of difficult clients, emotional clients, tight timelines, tight budgets, it's a piece of piss because I've just done 12 weeks of that boiling pot, unbelievable environment, and we've still delivered the goods and we've still been shown in a good light. So the fact that I've earned my stripes doing that, anything else is, to be honest, it was just easy and didn't really faze me. Like a lot of clients, they go, you don't get stressed out. I'm like, oh, well, I can, but it's like my baseline, like this is not a trigger. This is easy.
Yeah.
This is just like not even a blip on my radar, to be honest. Like national TV, tight deadlines, not enough money, and they're poking the bear and pushing your buttons to manipulate the situation and get a reaction out of you. If you can put up with that, you'll be sweet.
So did they do a lot of stuff to do that? Like did they do stuff to deliberately piss people off and stuff to get reactions? Because people are low on sleep. You're probably eating like Maccas. You're probably feeling like shit, you know, and you're working all these long hours. Do they do stuff on purpose to kind of like aggravate you?
They certainly do, but it's not obvious. It's not deliberate. It's just the environment, you know? Like the main pain points of renovating is time, budget, and people's personalities. So if you start those 3 levers, if you start pulling them and playing around with them, the rest takes care of itself in terms of drama. So that's the thing. That's why it is such a juggernaut and so successful, because you do get those reactions. The minute you start pushing those buttons, people crumble. people will blow their gasket, people will sort of fall apart. And that's the thing. If you can keep it cool and absorb that, digest it, and still deliver, that's what separates you from sort of everyone else in the market, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So you finished the block because you won, right? You guys won?
So what have we done? So wind the clock back. So 2015 was the first one.
Yeah.
We didn't win. We came third.
Right.
But contestants still won $500,000 in prize money. So
Oh.
wrapped with the result there. Went again 2 years later in 2017. Contestants won like $800K and we won that one. And then 2019 we went again. Contestants won probably almost $1 million again and we won that one.
Right.
And then 2022 we went again. That was a little bit disappointing. We came I think equal second or third, whichever way you want to put it. They won a couple hundred. Wasn't as good as the other ones, but at the end of the day, it's I gauge the success on my experience and the finished result of the properties, and absolutely stoked and over the moon with what we produced. So that's what I'm taking away. I'm not getting any prize money, so it's not like that's not the motivator for me. It's what we can produce.
Yeah. And because I've always looked at a lot of people do this as well, so it's not unique to me, but I've always looked at the block as an indicator of where the market's sitting.
Yep.
You can always see like when people are, making $1 million on a project, generally at the peak of the market. And then obviously, there's always that unlucky season where the market's just shifting and then they're making like no money or whatever. And then the year after that, generally they don't have there's no block going for a few years, you know? So it's definitely an indicator of where the market sits. So it's kind of interesting. Okay, so then after you've done the block a couple of times, is there some notoriety there? Are you getting like a lot of leads coming through through that?
Yeah, definitely.
Or?
So as I said, I was a qualified carpenter when I did the first one, and being on the block, you don't need to actually be a registered builder. So you're not actually attaching your license to anything.
Right.
If you're a qualified carpenter, that's sufficient because there's an overarching builder that's licensing your works and offering the warranty insurance and all that sort of thing. So you're held to account by them because they're the ones licensing it. All you have to do is actually be a qualified carpenter and know what you're doing, essentially.
Right.
So the first couple that I did, I wasn't registered. So the leads and the exposure that I was getting was probably a bit too early because I couldn't capitalise on it. Because potential clients are like, we've seen you do this phenomenal build on the TV, we want you to do ours. And I'm like, I'm not registered. So that was sort of the motivator. And not only that, but combined with, I was running a carpentry team. I had, it was probably half a dozen of us. And we were just doing carpentry packages for different builders, some developers. And I was starting to get a little bit frustrated because we were quite good and passionate about what we were doing. And it got to the point where we're pretty much just running these projects for the builder or for these developers. And then we'd deliver them and I'd stand back and the developer would put them on the market and we'd go to the auction and they'd make a mint off our hard work and we essentially ran the projects for them. So I'm like, I've got to pull my finger out and actually commit to getting my license. And at the time I was only 24, probably going on 25. I said, look, it's probably a bit early, but I've earned my stripes. I haven't had much experience, but the quality of the experience has been unparalleled. So I said, well, let's have a crack and try and get my license. So that was that in 2018. I committed to going through the process and got it. So
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was 2018. So 6-7 years ago now. Yeah, that was when I became a registered builder.
And then leads start coming in after that as well.
Well, yeah, and then we could actually capitalise on it.
Yeah.
So
and so that was like a game changer for you.
it was.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was almost going back to my apprenticeship again with no safety net, you know? It's like, yes, okay, great, I'm a registered builder. And then everyone's like bang, 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 like flicking plans, engineers, all this sort of stuff, permit, building surveyors, all that sort of thing. And I'm just like, okay, I've been running projects for another builder. I've had glimpses of this, but now it's all on me. There's no one else to lean on because the client, they're like, you're a builder, you should know. Just like, you don't want to let on that you're bluffing your way through to a degree because it's the first time doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a bit of a rude awakening. And then it's the financial side of things as well. Like, I ran a decent sized crew and we were doing a fair bit of volume of work, but you're starting to sign these $500,000 $800, $1.2 million contracts in the early stages, you start questioning how fast you're moving, and you sort of signing the contract and your hand shaking.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. It's like, it's that
Yeah.
obsession with progression. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, if you don't want to commit and you don't want to bite the bullet, what's the alternative? You just stagnate, you know? You just keep doing what you're doing. And then you're still in the same position 2-3 years later. Yeah.
So, okay, so you kind of grew the business essentially off the back of that. So the block definitely helps. You'd obviously recommend if people were ever thinking about doing the block, you'd recommend it. You'd say,
100%.
give it a go.
Yeah. Personal growth. It's just like it's unparalleled.
Yeah.
As long as you actually want to have a crack. Yeah.
And so how does your sales process work now? So people come through.
Yep.
Do you get them, because I assume most of it's renovation work still?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And so do you get them to sign a preliminary agreement? Do you do you charge to start putting a quote together? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we've toyed with that. So it's over probably the past 3 to 4 years, ever since COVID as well, with the price rises, the pre-construction phase got more and more important, because what we found is these designs were coming through, landing on our desk that were probably 12, 18 months old, and they were established based off perceived costings or build costs from the building designers before the price rises. So then we were trying to keep up, and we were trying to essentially put a prelim proposal together, and we're delivering it to the client, and we're the heartbreakers because we're 25, 30% over their budget. And they go, well, the building designer said when we started that this was going to be $850, and I'm coming in at 1.1. And then we're just like, well, where do we go from here? And pick the eyes out of the project and deliver substandard quality of finishes to still build the 30 square home, or do we start going back to the drawing board in the prelim and concept stage and start reducing size and building envelope and shape and form and cladding selections and all that sort of thing? So that was a bit of a tough time. So I spent a fair bit of time in that pre-construction phase, and then I was just burning hours, and then I was putting so much time and effort in the hopes of winning these jobs, and it was like you'd spend weeks on it, and then you still couldn't hit the client's budget. So then they just park it. The design goes in the filing cabinet, and I had a stack of potential projects on my desk, and I looked at it and I'm like, that's like 6 months work. Yeah. And none of them have eventuated into a contract. So I'm like, I've got to stop. Like, who else works 6 months for free? No one, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I've got to start putting a value on that. So then I started pitching together these pre-construction consultancy agreements, which was good. It worked. But then no two clients were the same. So then you had to tailor the agreement to suit. And then it was just like, I'm still refining it, still working through it. So we do still offer it. But it's definitely not a one size fits all. It's not like, okay, you want to quote $5,000. It can't be like that, because it's like there's some need more time, some need less time, some are at different stages. So yeah, that idea has a place, but it's just not as easy as what you would think. Yeah, it's not just I charge $5,000 for a quote, because it's just like, each project has to be looked at individually, and then you got to tailor a proposal for that prelim process specific to the client.
And do you find clients are now a bit more open to that once you explain the process, or are they still hesitant to be like, well, I have to pay for a quote? How's this work?
Now they are. 2-3 years ago, it wasn't as common, and clients weren't aware of where the industry was in terms of pricing and this disconnect between designs and actually the buildability of them and budgets. Now it's pretty much well known that the past 3 years has probably been easily a 35-40% price rise, and clients are well aware of that. So it's that prior knowledge of clients coming in. They go, shit, well, if I'm going to embark on a 6 to 12 month process to build my forever family home, if a trusted builder is going to charge me $6,000 or $8,000 or $12,000 for their time to make sure that this project is going to be the best it possibly can, and we're protected in terms of overall build contract, build cost, and we're going to get what we want, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
If I'm building $1 million house, what's an extra 10 grand at the start to make sure that it's a smooth process? That's how I articulate it to clients, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
You do get some that get scared away, but you know what? Well, maybe we're just not a good fit. That's fine.
Also a great way to get rid of tire kickers, right? Once you
Exactly right.
know,
Yeah.
because if they're not willing to pay that 10 grand,
Yeah. Because
they're probably
that's
not.
the thing. How many industry professionals work for free? You know what I mean? Like if it's a couple of phone calls, that's fine, but not when you're spending weeks on it, and not when they stack up. And as I said, that stack of projects on my desk was like, that was a big eye opener, because I looked at them and I'm like, that's ever since March. So March through to October, as I said, 6 months. There's probably 30 projects there over the past 30 weeks, and not one's come through.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I listened. It was like a stat. I think I have it right. In Australia, I think 80% of projects, never see, of concepts, never see the light of day. So, and that's all because they designed not to budget. It's all over.
But that's the beauty of that pre-construction process, because you can take that design that's on the brink of coming to fruition and actually work out, okay, let's sink our teeth in it. Do you want it? Let's work out how we can actually make it happen, and work out, okay, you may have to concede because your budget's here and your design's there, but let's try and pull those levers and massage it to make sure that we are in alignment. Because for me, like I say it to clients all the time, I sound like a broken record. I don't care whether you want to spend $850 or $1 million. That's insignificant for me. The key driver is making sure that this project can come to fruition. Doesn't matter if it's plus or minus 100K. I don't care. I've got my margin attached to the contract value. As long as we're signing the contract, I'm delivering a family home for you guys, that's a win.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we get there?
Yeah.
So, and it's a process. It's a tough one, but it needs to be done to make sure that it's a smooth journey.
Yeah. There's still definitely quite a bit of education that needs to get out there for people, because when people do renovate, it's not like people renovate every year. They're in the market, so it might be the first time they've ever renovated, or maybe the last time they renovated was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so you do need to educate them a bit. And the saying, a well-behaved client is an educated client. And so it's, you kind of need to educate them on that process to start. So in terms of the business side, so obviously you've had to learn on the job, you know what I mean? It's not, you didn't do an MBA or anything like that.
No.
Most builders have to learn. They know
Hands-on-
how to build.
hands-on experience.
hands-on experience. And you have to make mistakes along the way. What are the numbers that you now look at, Matty, like to make sure that things are tracking how they should? So you looking from the top as the owner of the business. What are the numbers? So accounting wise or head count, whatever. What are the numbers that you look at that to make sure things are tracking?
Yeah, so obviously with our live projects, I make sure I've got, in terms of staff, right, let's start there. Obviously, I've now got to the point where I need a helping hand in the office. So that's that box tick. That's a non-negotiable now, because we're at the volume and the revenue that we're at. Per live project, depending on the size of the contract, I need one leading hand allocated to that particular project. And then underneath them, they need a junior to help supplement the labour. And then those juniors just float between the leading hands. So they mix it up, so they're getting a wealth of experience and working in different dynamics. So in terms of staff and headcount, that's that. So depending on what we've got in the pipeline over the next 12 months, I make sure that I've got the staff to see that through. And then obviously I'm always looking, at the moment we're booked out for 8-10 months. So between now and then, I've got the staff to facilitate that scope and that pipeline. As it progresses, it's just a rolling schedule essentially. So there's that. Obviously, when I quote the jobs, I price it. We're using Build Exact estimating software, so it's pretty sharp. We're not using it to its full potential. That's just me, because I'm a little bit old-fashioned and sort of stuck in my ways to a degree. But the takeoff tool and the estimating layout and everything like that are gold. You can put dollar figures next to every aspect of the build. So then once that converts to a live project, weekly, every Monday, non-negotiable, every cost for the previous week gets allocated to its relevant subcategory in each job. So we've got live, updated weekly, we've got live job tracking as to where the variances are, where the cost blowouts might be. And then it's human nature. You can't avoid it. There's always pluses and minuses, but you've got your finger on the pulse in terms of when something's going south to shift and move and adopt and get a bit smarter in the back end to try and make up for it. Because otherwise, if you're not tracking it, which is what I was doing in the very early days because I was spread so thin, I wasn't tracking it. And you go, oh yeah, when I priced this, there was a 20% markup, hopefully walk away with 15 or 10% margin at the end. And then you get to the end, you're like, shit. You look at your balance and you're like, I don't even know, like, where is it?
Yeah.
It's not there. And it's like, have I already spent it or did it not eventuate, or are my overheads too high? It's like, yeah, it ends up a mess. So having your finger on the pulse in terms of the live tracking to know how the job's progressing and being able to manipulate the runnings of that project live to make sure that you don't get to the end and it's a shit show. That's important. And then also on top of that, it's like when you zoom out, look at the business as a whole, knowing what your true labour cost is. Like, what's the cost of your leading hands? Is it, okay, you're paying them, they're on a salary, right? So you work that out to an hourly rate. Is that true cost or is that the charge out rate? Is there margin or variance there? You're taking into account all their leave, all their sick leave, whether they've got cars or entitlements, all that sort of stuff. Are you making sure that you're not selling yourself short there? If it's $5 or $10, okay, it might not seem like much, but $5 or $10 per hour on an employee that's costing you 60, like it's 15, 20% that you're doing your nuts on. So you got to make sure you got your finger on the pulse there. That's across the board. And then just overheads, like having a firm grasp on what your outgoings are. It's just like, as I said, like we've got an office and we've got the factory. It's small, it's minor, but it's something to factor in. Then you got all your insurances, then you got maintenance, and then you got all these other things. You got online marketing, whether you're paying for all that sort of stuff, sponsor the footy club, like all these things that you sort of make decisions on throughout the year. Have you allowed for that in the jobs that you've got live? Because if you don't have that overhead component attached to the job, then all that cash is just coming out of your profits. Yeah. And then you get to the end of the year, you've got this juggernaut of a business, might be turning over a few mil or a handful of mil or 10 mil, whatever it may be, but you've just pissed it all up the wall on sponsorships and online marketing and signage and cars and everything like that, and there's nothing left at the end. Yeah. And then you can't grow and you can't scale because there's nothing to tap into. There's no cash flow.
Yeah. So it's super important to kind of keep your eyes on, your finger on the pulse, know what's going on.
Yeah. And it's been conservative as well. It's like, as I said, like you sign, now, like we're signing multi-million-dollar contracts. It's like, that doesn't matter. Like, don't get too far ahead of yourself, because just because it's a big contract doesn't mean that there's big money at the end of it. If you stuff it up or if there's oversights, it can be a big loss. So it's just like, the bigger you get, it turns into a bigger beast. So yeah, you just have to be very conservative and very calculated.
And so to add to that, how do you structure your contracts to avoid conflict, to avoid, because contracts are, I had a solicitor on, or he's actually a barrister, specialised in construction. And he kind of said, you want to always think of your contract as just a way of promoting the right behaviour. People just need to be incentivizing people to act in the right way.
Yep.
How do you sort of structure your contracts, and what contracts do you use, and what sort of additional clauses do you have in there?
Yeah, so we're just using the stock standard Master Builders Victoria contract. Obviously that's a e-contract, so it's a bit easier now, not signing 100 pages. We use a Method B payment schedule because we're doing renovations. Even for our new builds as well, we do the Method B. So you can actually manipulate the payment percentages per stage, contrary to what Method A would be. Method A is pre-stipulated percentages based off deposit, base, frame, lock-up, fix, handover.
It's pretty basic. Yeah.
The thing is, when you're doing obscure projects or imported materials or whatever it may be, like, that Method A payment schedule doesn't really apply itself to a more custom build. So we use Method B, gives us the ability to manipulate those percentages, not through a lens of taking the piss out of the client and front-loading the contract and lining our pockets, purely to make sure that if the windows are a 16-week lead time and we need them just after frame, we need to order those windows as the job starts to make sure that we're not sitting there on our hands waiting for windows to come. So that means if these windows are 80K out of the project and they're only paying a 5% deposit, that's not reflective of the true costs and the outgoings of these of the expenses of the project. So we've got to make sure that it reflects it. And a lot of our clients, I mean, yeah, some are in different financial positions, but a lot of them are going through finance and lenders and brokers. So we do get a bit of pushback from the payment schedules, but we've found what a universal acceptance is in terms of what's palatable, in terms of percentages at what stage. And we just try and manipulate it and try and express and give justification as to why we're front loading it, and give a supplement document for them to pass on to their broker, for them to be able to digest that a little bit more, so it doesn't look like we're being a shark and trying to take our profits before we actually swing a hammer on site.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how builders are expected to be the bank sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you just used that joinery example, right? Where you just sort of have to eat it. You just eat it at the front.
Yeah.
Until they're ready to pay for it, until it arrives on site, but you've already had to pay deposits or whatever, right? So I think that's very important to kind of structure that. Obviously, you've had a lot of success up until this point. There's going to be a lot more to come, you know, but things don't always go to plan.
Yeah.
Give me an idea of when things didn't go to plan. Like, do you have an anecdote or an example of, you know, what's the biggest hit you've taken financially from maybe your mistake or not your mistake?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like even our live projects, and in recent years, like through that live job tracking, I'm still, you can't quote and allow for every possible component or labour allowance that goes in the project. So even now, like I've got a contingency embedded in our estimates, but you're always underquoting different aspects. So realistically, we're yet, like, as much as I'd love for our target margins to be where we want them to be, they're always a touch under. But it's like I'm willing to cop that because the quality of the project that we deliver is a non-negotiable. So if I'm losing out on a certain component, I won't concede on the end result or the quality of finish for the sake of chasing and hitting that allowance or component or monetary allowance for that component. So it's from my perspective, it's like the finished product is priority. If my margins and my profitability has to take a hit to still deliver where the expectation is, well, that's on me because I've underquoted. So because I've got the data there to look back and go, okay, I missed on that one, I skimped on that one. Okay, for the next one, let's make sure we allow a little bit more to take the stress off.
Yeah. So there hasn't been like a big scenario where someone didn't pay you or anything like that. You had to eat some.
Not recently, because I'm a lot more controlled and particular about the clientele that I take on. Like I vet and screen our clients thoroughly. If we're not aligned, we don't appreciate each other, we're not on the same page, I'm not interested, because it's like everyone says, it's okay, probably 6 months in the pre-construction phase with this potential client, just say 12-month build, and then you've got a 10-year homeowner warranty insurance policy. So you're married via a contract, you know what I mean, to these people. So if you don't appreciate each other, not to mention you're building their home, like it is intimate. So if you don't appreciate each other, it is a shit show the whole way through. It's like this just tension. So it's just like I'm not interested in that, and I want to enjoy what I do. So that's a non-negotiable for me. I screen and vet our clients thoroughly, and we've really never had a bad client. So
that's
that
awesome.
Works.
Yeah.
Early days before I was registered, as I said, I was working for builders, working for developers. I got burnt quite a few times. Just one builder went belly up, owed tens and tens of thousands of dollars with me as a young bloke, with me with staff as well. And I was still living at home. Like,
that's a big hit back then.
30 grand. Like, as I said, you translate that, just because I'm a business owner doesn't mean I can absorb more than anyone else. Like you pull someone off the street and go, I'm stealing 30 grand from your account. It's like, come on. So that was a tough pill to swallow. It was a mate of a mate as well. So that it's still a bit of a pain point. So it's but the way I look at it is I take pride in the fact that I put myself, or I built a business robust enough to be able to absorb that hit. The staff and the boys had no idea that happened at the time. They actually started asking, how come we're not going back to that job? I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. Just left it at that. So they still got paid. It didn't filter through for them. They didn't find out until like probably 12 months later what actually happened. And then it started adding up that I was so bitter because he screwed me over. So it's just that sort of stuff, and it shouldn't happen, but it does. So me as a business owner, me as an employer, if I'm committing to putting myself in that environment and I'm rolling the dice to a degree, the onus is on me to be able to absorb any sort of shockwave or any sort of shit that goes wrong to protect people that are a part of the team, because it's just like I can't push that onto the guys. I'm bitching and moaning about me taking a loss. Like, how's it fair for me to do the same thing to my staff? It just won't happen. So yeah, and that's the thing. I'm glass half full type of person. I'll take it as a learning and count my blessings that I can absorb it and move on. You know. So yeah.
No, I mean, that's a good attitude, I think. And it just shows the importance of making sure your business is robust and you have enough margins in there and you're running it like a business. Now that and we've kind of almost come to the end of our time.
It's been good.
It's been really interesting just listening your journey and to kind of hear all that, because I didn't know a lot of that stuff. Do you have kids at the moment?
2.
How old are they?
Matilda just turned 3.
Cool.
And little William just turned 1.
Awesome. Cool names.
Yeah. A little bit old school.
Yeah, it's real old school.
They're not too common. Like Matilda, like little Tilly, she's I didn't know another Matilda. So it's a little bit obscure, a little bit different, but yeah, they are. Yeah, that's the thing. As you progress through life as well, it's sort of once they came along, like I've had a partner for 15 years now, so I always sort of had someone to keep me accountable. But once you've got kids, it's like flicks another switch, flicks another gear, and you work your ass off and then come home and see them running up to you. It's that's the key driver. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and might have to talk about all that in the next episode when I come on again. But just give me an idea.
For days.
yeah, I know, right? Give me an idea, Matty. Like, what is success to you now?
Having a smile on your face, jumping out of bed. You know what I mean? Like, this past 12 months has been tough because we've been pumping in terms of capacity, in terms of like brain power and shit going on everywhere in a good way. So it's been tough, but it's been really rewarding because we've still got to the end. And as I said, the non-negotiable is the quality of work that we're producing at the end and the relationships that we maintain through that process. I've retained staff, every client's been happy, family's happy and healthy. It's like you're ticking those boxes and I've still got a smile on my face and I'm still happy to jump out of bed in the morning. That's, for me, that's what'll keep me going. Because the minute those start to fall away, the wheels fall off, and then, as I said, the alarm goes off at 4:15 in the morning and I'll just probably roll over and bury my head in the pillow. But that's not the case at the moment. So I reckon, we're doing all right.
Awesome, man. I've got a few rapid fire questions. Are you okay for me to shoot those through?
What are they?
You can pass on them or you can...
No, you're right, yeah.
I always say you could lie as well, so that's fine. You don't have to tell the truth. But yeah, I'll just quickly shoot through them and you just sort of give me the best answer.
Yeah.
Cool. Remind me, how big is your team?
10.
What is your crew mix, qualified versus unqualified?
60-40. So 60 young pups, 40 qualified.
Cool. How many projects did you complete last year?
Last financial would have been 6.
Cool. What is your turnover range? Under 1 mil, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 plus?
5 to 10.
Cool. What's the lowest gross profit margin building company should be aiming for?
Oof. Well, where you're aiming is never where you land. So there's got to be a little bit of cream on top to allow for the heartache. To be honest, it's like it's got to be, you should be aiming for 20. And if you hit 15, that's sort of palatable. Anything under 10, and it's just not worth it. It's really not worth the pain and suffering, you know?
For sure. Free quote or paid quote?
There's a place for both.
QS or price yourself?
Price yourself.
Project management software or spreadsheets?
I was spreadsheets, archaic for a long time, but I've made the transition and it's much more efficient. So software.
Yeah. Fixed price contract or cost plus?
Each has a place. Fixed price is more efficient. Cost plus is clunky and, yeah, more stressful.
Yeah. Texting or talking on the phone?
On the phone.
Would you rather have a beer with an architect, a subby, or council member?
Subby.
Council member never gets to have the beer. Are you a jock or a hippie?
Oh. Yeah, probably more jock, yeah.
Wine or whiskey?
Oof. Bit of both. Depends on the time.
Yeah. First the wine, then the whiskey.
Yeah.
These days, building business owners are A, too impatient, B, forward thinkers, or C, hard workers.
Hard workers.
Are you too mean or too nice to your staff?
I reckon I'm straight down the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll find out. They can comment below.
I'll say I'm too nice, but I'm just firm. Like
Yeah.
expectations are set. That's it. And
That's
everyone knows. So it's like, man, you're a part of the team. That's the expectation. That's straight down the line.
Last question. Did you have fun?
Had a ball.
Awesome, man.
Loved it.
Thank you so
Brad.
much for
I
coming on.
appreciate it, mate. It's been good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And we're definitely going to have to do part 2 at some point in the future.
good.
So yeah,
Lock it
thanks
in.
for coming on, Matty.
Sign us up. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.